Howdy everybody, Steve here, KM9G. Yesterday I went to the Enid, Oklahoma Hamfest and I got myself some pretty cool deals, and I got some deals for a couple of friends of mine and wanted to share all of those with you so you knew what you could find at a Hamfest. This was a pretty interesting Hamfest. There were about 100 vendors and it was indoors, and some of it was air conditioned and some of it wasn't. And the venue changes, so maybe next year it'll be all indoors, all air conditioned, or maybe next year it'll be even outdoors. Who knows? But it was a fun time and there's some great people here, and Hamfests are always a good place to find some really great people and meet up with some good friends, and I always enjoy going to them. So let's get into what did T.O. get. I guess first let's get into what did I get for my friends. So my friend Ziggy wanted a Cisco Ham Shack hotline phone. So we got a Cisco IP phone for $10, and this thing will work with Ham Shack Hotline. I did a live stream where we got our Ham Shack Hotline phones set up and working, and it was pretty slick. So I'll leave a link for that up at the top up there for you. And then, we'll get the big beast out of the way first to make life easy for me, because y'all can kind of recognize what this is from the backside. It's a manual tuner, but it's also a very big manual tuner. This is the MFJ 962, and it is good for 1.5 kilowatts, 1,500 watts. Room on it for 2 coaxes, balance line, wire, antenna, and 1 single transmitter, so you can switch between all of them. And then the meter on the front can handle a couple of different load ranges depending on what radio and what amplifier you shove into it. Onto my stuff. There was an estate sale there, so I was able to get some pretty neat things. I got an MFJ TNC2 packet radio, and we have been playing around with TNCs on ham nuggets on Monday nights, and I'm working with a PK232 MBX model, and then I've also got a Cantronics KPC3, not the 3 Plus model, but the 3, and the same guy had an empty box, and inside $119.95 price tag. I guess that was what it was when it was new. Inside was the original receipt, and this says COD, charge on delivery, 1 Cantronics KPC3 for $119, 1 ARRL DXCC list for $2, 1 repeater directory for $6, COD and shipping was $10 charge. And this went to KB5WPN. Is there a date on here? Rogers, Arkansas, 5/24/1993. So there we go. There's the receipt for when that was purchased, and the price is brand new. But I also got 5¼ inch floppy disks. I got the envelope to send back your registration, a 3.5 inch double-sided double density disk, so 720K worth of storage on this thing for pack term. There's the warranty card and the packing foam. And so now I have a box to put my KPC3 in that belongs to a KPC3 instead of a postal mailbox. So that was a pretty good score. That was no charge to me. And then for Jim, I got him a real pack rat. This is the PK232, not the MBX version, but it looks like it does all the same things except for the MBX portion. And the MBX is mailbox. And there's probably some upgrade cards that you can put in here if you wanted to go crazy and do that. So we'll kind of do a tech out on this and figure that out coming up either on my channel or on Jim's channel, depending on how spicy he decides to get. At the same table, he had a whole bunch of little goodies, and I found this little box right here with absolutely no markings on it. But luckily the screws were missing from the bottom, and you can kind of hear it rattling around. So I was able to open it up and see what was inside of it. And my best guess, and y'all probably will agree, is that is an amplifier of some kind, and it says Ramsey Electronics Q amp on it. So just guessing, without looking at any schematics or any manual or anything, there is a power transformer, so 12 volts or whatever in, stepped up to whatever the amplifier needs. Those are your final transistors with your heat sinks on that are going to do your amplification circuit. And then over here is an output bandpass filter, so we can kind of do some measurements and figure out what's going on there, count the turns, figure out what toroids those are. I think they're T6s just by looking at them, and see what band this is for. And then there is an RF sensing relay, so we can receive and transmit. And then this thing came with RCA connectors, and my buddy James had a set of RCA connector to SO239 adapters just laying around. And there's a little, I guess that's a on-off switch or a bypass switch. We'll have to take a look at it and learn some more, but there'll be an upcoming video on that when we figure out what it is. And then one of the other things that I got was a 2-meter filter. So I want to see what all is inside of this thing and try and figure out what makes it tick and what all we can do with it. So there's an input and an output side, and it probably doesn't matter which direction you shove it into and shove it out of, but it's labeled, so we'll respect that. It's made by Gavin Industries Incorporated, and it's a nice little metal box. So 2-meter filter, BP 144. And then we were doing a Nuggets episode on the T-Tower, the Liligo T-Tower. This is a 2-meter radio, this version. They also have it in a 70 centimeter version, and it is an ESP32 chip, GPS, speaker, SA, I want to say an 818 or an 868 radio on a chip module inside. And with the firmware that's currently on here, it is a web server and it does APR-S work. And so for about 50 bucks, you've got yourself an APR-S machine. It needs Bluetooth to connect you to APR-S Droid so that you can, do your keyboard interface, your human interface type stuff, because it's got a little tiny screen and just a jog wheel here for user input. And none of the devices I have, my Raspberry Pi won't connect to it, my laptop won't connect to it, none of my cell phones connect to it, so I had to go and get a cell phone. And I was kind of afraid to walk into Walmart and pick up one of their cheap cell phones for fear that I would run into the exact same problem of having a modern device that does Bluetooth that won't connect to this thing. And there are a couple of other people that have the same Bluetooth connectivity issue on the T-Tower, and maybe it's an ESP32 thing or something along those lines. But this was a $25 smartphone with a case, and it was able to connect to it over Bluetooth. And since it wasn't mine, I didn't install APR-S Droid, so that's going to be an upcoming video on the channel, is getting the T-Tower and the Android working together. And then I wanted to share this with you guys. This was just laying in the box, and I figured I will just get this because it is pretty cool. You can kind of guess what it is already, but I don't know what it is because I haven't opened it up. So let's switch camera angles again and we'll open it up together because mystery is awesome. Here we go with the CPU, the unknown provenance, the unknown origin, the unknown name. Carefully take that out. It's an AMD. It's an AMD Athlon. Wow. So that little tiny thing is the CPU there, and then all the rest of this is just to interface it because it's got a ton of pins on it. I don't have anything this would go into, but I thought it'd be pretty neat. And with the way that the dealer was selling stuff, this was probably a couple of pennies, 50 cents, something along those lines. So it was pretty cool little find. And then sometimes you find stuff like this where you are never going to be able to make this for the price that this thing is sold for at the Hamfest. This was about $1, and this looks like it is 8-gauge connector wire, and it has some ring terminals on it, and it has 75 amp power poles on it. So I can definitely find a use for this for $1. And then another project that I'm working on, I was actually like sitting at Amazon stressing out over my cart because I needed to get some parts for an upcoming project, and I wasn't happy about it because I have all this stuff back at my storage facility in Wisconsin, and I didn't really want to buy it again. So these were at the Hamfest again. These were in that, grab yourself a handful of stuff and it equals $1 category. So USB-A on one side and micro USB on the other side. And I need this because this is the power connector for a Raspberry Pi Zero, and then this is the power charging, power output connector that I have for a small Go Pack that I'm working on. So I got one of those, and just in case it doesn't work, I got a second one that's slightly longer. So same thing, USB-A and micro USB. And while I was digging around through the same box, I found this little gem here, which actually would be perfect if they made it in A to micro, but this is A to mini. And if A to mini wasn't good enough for me, I can do A to mini. And then this is a mini receptacle that turns it into a micro. So there's a to mini, mini to micro adapter cable. And then it was already connected to this USB cable here, which is just a straight USB A to A extension cable. So there's your two ends on that. So this will all be featured in an upcoming mini man pack video that I am working on, a project that I am working on. So stay tuned for all of that. The Enid, Oklahoma Hamfest is obviously in Enid, Oklahoma. I will leave a link to the website for the Hamfest in the description down below. It is currently in the month of September. It has been in different months, different times of the year, but Hamfests are always fun. I really enjoy going to Hamfest and hanging out with people and just shooting the breeze about radio and looking at all the the antiques and all the other interesting things. If you want to see a walkthrough of the Enid, Oklahoma Hamfest, we did it during a live stream, and I will link the video to that over there for you. Otherwise, have a great day. Thanks for being awesome, and I'll see you later.